Good morning, friends. Welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we are going to have a very fun and productive morning back here on the patio area. I am out here bright and early. The sun has not crested over the trees yet. I'm trying to beat the sun this morning because we've got some work to do back here on the patio, and this is definitely one of my hottest spots in my entire yard. So there's a couple of things we're going to do that I just thought you would like to come along for the ride and just give you kind of updates on how things are doing back here. I will tell you that you have been asking for a whole garden tour excuse me, of all of our gardens here at the house. That is coming very soon. Within the next week we will have that out for you. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to do before we do the garden tour, so I was going to show you those things. So again, here we are. I'm standing in the yard looking up at the patio, and there's a couple of things just right off the bat. First of all, can we talk about these gorgeous new summerific hibiscus? This is Lilac Crush. It will be on the market next year from Proven Winners. Walter's Gardens was so kind to send us a couple of these plants, and oh my gosh, I love them. There are 3 of the Lilac Crush right here. I may long-term have to take out one because of not so much of this area right in here, but I do have a beautiful 9 bark back here, and I'm afraid it might get a little too close to the 9 bark. So we'll play around with that later on. And then do you notice those 3 new trellises we have up against the wall? When we first put in our David Austins, a bunch of y'all were like, Jenny, that wall is so huge and blank, you need something. And I was like, no, we're not gonna put anything there. Yeah, well, I was wrong. You were right. So I ordered these 3, they're 9 feet tall trellises from Gardener's Supply, and I put them right behind the roses. Now these are not technically climbing roses, but they will get to be a good height. I can't remember the exact heights on all of them, but in that like 5-6 foot range. So what we're going to do today is we're going to come along and we're going to begin kind of tying them up to the trellises. Now you will notice that these sweet things are already in the ground and attached to the wall because Jerry and I are smart enough not to do that on camera. In the fact of, you never just know how a project like this is going to go because you're dealing with a flower bed that has existing rose bushes in it that are quite thorny. It is now August and everything is out to kill us, including the fire ants, and there is a huge fire ant mound at the base of this one. So we were able to do it with no cursing, no stings, no bites, no blood was shed during this. So they're up and it was really simple to do. And we're gonna get those trellised up there. And then also I wanted to go ahead and take you and show you how I fertilize my flowering annuals. A bunch of you have asked how I do that and exactly how to fertilize annuals. So I've got my Proven Winners water soluble fertilizer. So we are going to do that. I'm going to take you for a little tour up here on the garden boxes and show you what is in that, how I planted it, because it is doing fantastic and very happy. But the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to address the unsightly issue that I am having currently with my Incredible hydrangeas. We have them right here. Let me show you on the back edge of the seeding wall, right? And I have 5 of them here. This is their first, they've completed their first full year in the ground. Clearly you can see that there is a problem with the 3 in the middle. Jerry and I are not quite sure what's going on. Now I knew that this one in the middle, which looks the absolute worst, because Brenna took out half of it this winter when she was a puppy. She ran through or she was chewing on it. I don't know what she did. She took out half of it. I wasn't concerned. I thought, okay, they were going to pop back. But it got clearly progressively worse as the season went on. And then now I'm having, this one is turning not so good. And then also the one beside of it. So I'm not terribly concerned about like the blooms, because it is that time of year where the blooms are going to start to turn. But I do have dead growth in here, and I don't know why. It is on irrigation. We have checked it. Irrigation is working correctly. Is it too much mulch? Is it too much sun here? Because these are rated for a zone 8. So then I'm starting to wonder, like, is it too hot here? Because of course, here we are in North Carolina, zone 7B. August is here now, and these babies are just clearly struggling for some reason. So to help them immediately, what I'm going to do is I am going to prune them back, because that way if I prune them back, it takes off growth. It is less stress on the plant. So we're going to prune these up, and then we're just going to have to evaluate and see what we're going to do. I know we're already have planned that we're going to take these out later in the fall, and we're going to plant them down near the creek, so they will definitely get a break from the hot afternoon sun. And then we're gonna have to replant something here. I'm thinking of a panicle hydrangea. So this is just kind of a problem that we are currently facing and trying to figure out, because that is gardening, right? There's always something that pops up. You've got to do a little problem solving, investigating, and just work the problem and just keep moving forward. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get these pruned up, and I'm also going to go ahead and prune some of, I think I'm going to take a little bit off of my spireas. I want to just give them a little bit of a gentle shape. I know that they are blooming because these are repeat bloomers, but I think if I give them a little bit of a haircut, nothing severe, just a little trim, then I will get beautiful new foliage and a great flush for the fall. So I think that's what we're going to do. Clearly the petunias need fertilizer, so we're going to give them some fertilizer too. Bruna is very happy. She is outside in the garden with her mama, and I don't know if you can see that magnolia has 3 gorgeous blooms on it. So excited about that. So without further ado, I am going to get all of my supplies, and we're gonna do these incredibles first. Working this bed first because this is where it gets the sun immediately. So we're gonna get this done, and then we'll move over to some other areas. All right, my friends, so here we are. We're gonna start. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do this one, and then I'll just move down the line in that assembly line. So this is definitely the happiest one out of the whole bunch. Again, I have absolutely no idea why, but it is what it is. So that's what we're gonna go with. I'm going to take off all the blooms and then just give this a nice gentle shape. If I've got some really small little stems, I'm gonna take them out. And I am going to be precise. So I'm using my Felco's. This is a number 2. If you go to Felco and you put in our code, you'll get 10% off. I could use the hedge trimmers, but this I want to be very specific with my cuts. So I will come in right above 2 leaves and I will trim it. I always say you can always cut off more, but you can't put the plant back on. So if I need to go in and cut more later, then I certainly can, but for right now, I'm gonna try to be very precise. Now, if there is a dead limb, I'm gonna take it all the way back to the base of the plant and take the whole thing out. You'll know it's dead, or see, well, this one's not even like dead because the foliage is dead, of course, but can you see, let's see if I can get out of the way here. Can you see how it's kind of green and white in the middle? I think that's hopefully showing up for you. That means that the whole stem is not dead yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it out anyway, and we are going to, hopefully that there's no fire ants in here and yellow jackets and all the things. Get it cleaned up, shaped up, and yeah, move on down the line. Okay, so I got the first one pruned, and you can see I just tried to give it an overall, haircut. You want to have, you know, of course, the taller, and then just shape it on the side. This is just where the creative side comes in, and you just cut it to how it looks good to you. This was not a severe prune whatsoever. And then the only thing I forgot to mention is, how do I know that I can safely prune this hydrangea now and I'm not harming it? Because here we are, August, North Carolina, hotter than Hades. Last thing I want to do is prune this too severe and cause damage to the plant. I'm actually trying to help the plant. This is an Incrediball, which is an Annabelle type hydrangea. It blooms on new growth. That means possibly, I doubt it because it's kind of late, I could get some fresh blooms even like late fall. If the weather stays warm long, I may get a whole new flush of blooms. But whether I do or I don't this year, come back in winter, once we move them and put them in their new location, I will prune them yet again about 1/3 of their total size to keep that nice, strong stems on them. So if you have hydrangeas that bloom on old growth, those would be typically like your mop heads, well, this is a mop head. That doesn't really help in that situation, is it? Like a macrophylla hydrangea. Those bloom on old growth. So you want to prune them immediately after they bloom. Even this would probably be really iffy if this bloomed on old growth. I might be cutting off next year's blooms. So I'm just going to go on down the line and I'm going to get the other ones. They obviously are a lot more in need of some love. So we're going to take care of those, and then we'll come back and take care of the Spireas. I've got all the hydrangeas pruned, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to thin out some of this mulch that is right here around the hydrangeas. We're just going to try to problem solve as much as we possibly can and figure out what in the world is going on with these babies, because I do love them. Oh, and there's fire ants. So we're going to get off our knees here, and oh yeah, if you don't have fire ants, you are one blessed lucky gardener, because fire ants are not a native ant here. They're very similar to like what Japanese beetles are for us. They don't damage the plants, however, they damage the gardeners. They are just, they're teeny, they're vicious, and they can climb you really fast, and they bite you, I guess. It's not sting, they bite you. And they're just awful, and they hurt. So, all right, so I thinned out the mulch around the root ball, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fertilize them as well. I've got some rose tone. That is the best one for hydrangeas, because they are a flowering woody shrub. So we're just going to go in here. I'm not being super accurate as far as my measurement. I'm just giving fertilizer all around the hydrangea. This is a slow release, so it will not, I don't have to worry about it burning the hydrangea, which is wonderful, and it will feed it and help promote new growth, which is what I want. So we're going to do that to the other four. We're just trying to problem solve here as much as we possibly can. right, so all the hydrangeas have been taken care of. We've pruned them back. I pulled back the mulch and I fertilized, and I actually did go ahead and turn the water off, the irrigation off to this bed, because we're in a cycle right now of having a good bit of rain. Like the other night we got 2 inches of rain. So I'm trying to dry these babies out if that is the problem. I will know definitely if they are dry and like need water, because they will get limpy on me. And then I can give them water from that point. The reason that the mulch was so thick around them, it's not that thick mulch is bad, but thick mulch around the crown of the plant is bad. And when we were putting out mulch here in the late winter, you know, you're thinking this, because these get sun from sun up to sundown. I mean, full day sun. They are only to a zone 8. We are a zone 7B. So I was trying to retain as much moisture as possible, but we may have gotten that mulch a little bit too close to the crowns. So by pulling it away, it'll help dry it out, the fertilizer. So if we're gonna see some positive changes, it will be within the next, I would say, 2 weeks. Because except for the middle one, everybody else really, I know they may look bad, are doing pretty good. Once I cut them, there was very few dead limbs in there, and a lot of them did have new buds, like where they were trying to put out new foliage. So that is a very good thing. Now what we're gonna do is, because we are blessed with some clouds, but the sun is coming out really fast, and it's a little sticky out here. I'm going to take my hedge trimmers, like I told you, and I am going to just shape up my spireas. My mini Vista whites are on the major struggle bus, so I'm going to go ahead and prune them back, and everybody is going to get fertilizer. I probably am not going to fertilize my spireas, but most definitely these petunias will. So if you have petunias that look like this, that means they need to be pruned back and fertilized ASAP. You've got very little foliage in the center. They're very spindly. Clearly they're not full of blooms, so they need some help. I will cut this back by half and then water soluble fertilize. So I will show you exactly how you use water soluble fertilizer, how you mix it up, and how you apply it. We're going to get everything pruned and then we'll fertilize. All right, so everybody has been pruned back. I did go ahead and fertilize the spireas. I just used some plant tone. Never hurts to give a little slow release fertilizer to them, especially when they are on the struggle bus. Now, water soluble fertilizer. I only use the Proven Winners water soluble fertilizer. It is fantastic. It makes them nice and dark green, and it gives them beautiful flowers. So inside you have 2 bags, and you've got also a little scoop. If you fill the scoop all the way up to the top, that is a tablespoon, and you do 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. Here I have a 5-gallon bucket, so I am putting 5 scoops in. That is 4, and that is 5. I like to put the fertilizer in first, and then I put the water on top, so that way as I'm adding the water, I can stir it around and get everybody dissolved. Now, also, a little trick is these buckets make fantastic scoopers. So I am going to, I emptied out my bags, and I will, once this mixes up, then I will use this to pour onto my petunias. That way you're not having to lug a whole 5-gallon bucket around. So just bring the hose and your bucket to wherever you are, right? Work smarter, not harder, and just make it happen. All right, so if you can see, hopefully without spilling this out, you will see that this fertilizer is almost like a purpley color. That is because of the iron that is in here. This is what makes a huge difference for your petunias and your other plants. Nice, deep, dark green. So what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna give every petunia 2 bucketfuls of the water-soluble fertilizer. Now, notice this is for flowering plants, for your annuals. This is not for your perennials and your shrubs. This is specifically formulated for those flowering annuals. Now, can you use it on coleus and things like that? Yes. Do you need to use it a ton? Probably not very much. Petunias, your calibrachoas, your super bells, anything that produces a lot of flowers is going to be a heavy feeder. I should have been feeding these things at least once a week, if not at a maximum once a week, at a minimum once every 2 weeks. If I had been doing that, I would not be in the situation that I am. Life happens, people, right? There is grace in gardening, and you course correct, you fix it, and you move on. This will turn around very quickly. It is only the beginning of August. I have got tons of growing season left. These are tons of time for this to look gorgeous as the season goes on. Fix it, move on, no problem. So you just simply take this and you pour it right where the roots are. And that's it. Take your bucket, dump it. Because petunias, their root system is in one spot. It's not like they send out their runners and send out roots. So there's no need to really go too far out, because I'm just going straight to the center of the plant and I'm putting the fertilizer there. So it's as simple as that. Just pour the water, fertilizer water, on top of the plant, just like you would if it were you're watering like normal. So get these done, and then we're gonna go to the shade, because woo-wee, Jenny is glistening. All right, this flower bed is now complete, and it feels really good to have this one checked off my mental list, because it was definitely needing some love and needing some help. So pruned, fertilized, everybody should be happy. We should see growth within the next 2 weeks at a minimum. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move up here to the shade, because the sun's gonna be coming around here pretty soon. So we're gonna go over here and get the roses hooked up, start training them to go on these trellises. Let me give you just a little rundown so that you can know how easy it was really to put these on here. I will link exactly which ones they are. You'll probably notice them. I think Laura has the exact same ones. A bunch of gardeners have these because they are just so fantastic. Again, they are 9 feet tall, which works really well for this big, huge wall. Clearly, we still have room above them open. Now, this rose, David Alston, is Scepter de Isle. I had to think for a minute. Now, this is the only rose in this bed that has been here for a full year. This one was planted as a bare root this year, and then down here, this one is, I want to say, his brother Codful, and it had gotten moved. So these two are not living up to their full potential. I will see that by next year. So this one gives you an idea of really the size that's going to happen on this wall. It comes in 3 pieces. You simply just screw them together. They come with the brackets, and then deep down in there, see if I can show it to you. Let's see, let's go to this one over here. This is not where the fire ants are. There are feet that are on the bottom that you just simply sink down into the ground. I put the bottom one in first, then I took my level and got it nice and level down there, and then Jerry and I together attached the top 2 pieces, and you can see that the bracket is right there, and we just screw it into the wall. Now, we have hardy plank siding, which is a type of it's a cement product, so we don't have to worry about our siding rotting or anything like that. They do not include the hardware, the screws to attach it to your wall, because depending on what kind of wall you have, it will determine the screw. So if you have like a wood siding, hardy plank, brick, you know, whatever it is, then you get to choose the best screw for it. So what we're gonna do is just simply come in here, and I have got my twine. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so this is my twine that I use. I got it last year off of Amazon. I think I have it linked on our Amazon store. If not, I will try to do that. But it is fantastic because it is just a rubber stretchy tube that is meant for twining. Super easy. It disappears onto the plant and onto the trellis, so you just don't see it. And so I will just use this to take those big stems and just attach them to the trellis. Super easy. While I'm here, I am going to go ahead and treat them with the Bio Advanced All-in-One Rose and Flower Care. Now, this is a 3-in-1 product because, as you can see on the container, it is a fertilizer, insect control, and disease control. Last year I used this and it was fantastic. On the container it says 1 capful per plant every 4 to 6 weeks, I think it is. Well, here in the South, we're overachievers, and I found that I had to use it exactly once a month, especially this time of year, because this is when we're gonna get like black spot, and that is the biggest thing. Full disclosure, last year it worked great on my Japanese beetles. This year, the Japanese beetles just absolutely laughed at me. I don't know if I wasn't using enough, because most of these roses are more than 1 year old. So I don't know if it wasn't enough. It was an exceptionally horrible year for Japanese beetles here. But I don't have any black spot yet. So there you go. And I have very happy plants. So it gets a capful per rose just at the base of the plant. So we will do that. So this is just kind of that general maintenance that you do with roses. If I need to deadhead, I will do that. Some of them are starting to put out another flush of blooms. So that is always a welcome sight, especially this time of year. So I'm just gonna set the camera up and I'm gonna start trellising and fertilizing. All right, so here we go. I am behind the rose. And basically what I do is I find my biggest limbs, stems, right? Thankfully, Scepter de Isle is not an extremely thorny rose. I mean, she has thorns clearly, but they are big and they are well spaced. So I can tell where they are. When we get down over here, we've got a little booger that she likes to get you. And I find that I work better without gloves because I have more dexterity. So simply take a stem, figure out what makes the most sense as far as where it goes, and then just loosely tie it to the trellis. There's no huge rocket science to this. At this point, we're just trying to get her going in this direction so that she's not going in this direction. Yeah, so I'm just gonna work around this. She is kind of all jumbled up right now because when I was holding the rose when Jerry was putting in the trellis this morning. And the fire ants are down here, but hopefully they've gone back into the ground. I don't see them right now. So as long as I don't get in there too much, they should be fine. Yep, here we go. All right, so I'm just gonna pull and tie, pull and tie, pull and tie, and that'll be great. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we are going to get in here and apply our 3-in-1 rose care. The cerveza and lime is right here, and oh my gosh, every time I touch it, it just smells so good. Again, this is where the fire ants are, so I'm gonna be very careful. I am gonna go ahead and do a 1.5 cups of the treatment just because we are entering into the stickiest, hottest part of our season, and this is where if I'm gonna get black spot, this is the time of year that I'm gonna get it. Powdery mildew is very common for roses, the South, all of those things. Just mix it in, and then I just bring my mulch back. This is on irrigation, so she gets watered, and there we go. I know right now it may look a little funky because it's leaning so much towards the trellis. If you remember, when I planted these, I was not planning on putting a trellis there, but after digging up established roses after 1 year last year, I am not moving these things. We're gonna make it work, people. And right now, obviously it looks the worst that it's going to, because it has not grown in this fashion. And once it starts to fill in with new growth, it will be just fine. So I'm not too worried about it. You do what you gotta do. The other two, we're gonna move on down here and get them done as well. They are smaller, but yeah, we're just gonna move on down the line. All right, my friends, so today's project is complete. Praise the Lord, we got some more clouds. Now I am battling the thought that there is going to be rain, and we know that there is going to be rain at some point. I was going to go ahead and do water-soluble fertilizer on all my annuals out here, but if we're going to get a thunderstorm right now, I'm going to wait, and I'll do that after we have the rain. So I'm going to show you how the roses came out. Again, it's a little rough right now, and that's okay. What I ended up doing with the two on the end is, because they are not as thick and as vigorous right now, I cheated and I just took one big piece of the twine and I looped it all the way around, and I just tied it on both ends of the trellis. So it's like this big hoop, and it just captures them all, and it's just pulling it towards the trellis. So as these two roses grow, this one I started to do individually, and my gosh, the thorns on this rose are tiny and very prosperous. So it was not a very fun job to do. So that's where I was like, you know what, here we go. We're gonna tie twine on one end, wrap everybody up, and just pull it really nice and tight and have them grow. So as it grows up the trellis, then I can go in and be more strategic on who gets actually tied to the trellis. I did this last year with my climbing rose, the Generous Gardener, on the arch, and that seemed to help when they were still too young to be really attached to the trellis or the arch, but I needed to pull them in that direction. So that's a kind of a cheater's way to do it, but hey, it works for now. And then again, after a couple of days and get some sunshine on this backside, this will all flush out and you won't get that obvious, like I've just been pulled up to the trellis. So that will be okay. These are the pink flamingos. I had them last year. Walter sent them to me as a trial. I planted 5 last year, and 3 of them came back. They're a very, very tender perennial. But anyway, they're doing well. Trim them back, and everybody is doing well. Everybody's attached and doing quite happy. So before we wrap it up today, I want to show you the deck boxes that I planted. They look fantastic. So let's mosey on over here. I did get them planted later on in the season, but they are doing great. So I'm going to show you from this angle, and then we'll wrap around and I will get on the inside of the deck and show it to you. Now, again, you get to see the difference between 1 year's growth. This is Emily Bronte, David Austin. Very happy plant. I love this. This is a little bit of an older flower, but look at that. Oh, just fantastic. Very, very healthy. This is what that 3-in-1 does for these plants. Just look at the foliage on that. It's just gorgeous, nice and healthy. And then over here we have Desdemona. Desdemona and Brother Codful swapped places. So still nice, good, strong, sturdy stems. We just don't have a lot of the top growth as far as the height as Emily Bronte, but that's okay. It will come along quite nicely. And then this is the Blue Chiffon Rose of Sharon in a standard tree. I've had to kind of trim her up because she was going out too far and into the roses. So come late winter, early spring, I will trim up some on the bottom. But for now, I'm keeping her more upright. And then here we have the deck boxes. From this angle, really nice. Repeated the blues with the Playing the Blues Salvia, Newly Noir Coleus, the Mini Vista Supertunia Mini Vista White, the brand new Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow, and then let's go on up to the deck so that you can see the rest of the plants. Here we are on the deck with these gorgeous boxes behind me. I've been really impressed with how they have turned out because I did plant them late. I had saved the Newly Noirs as Grandes, so they came in as Grandes, and then my Salvias were in gallons. So they are quite happy. I basically picked a pattern and then I just repeated it all throughout both sides of the boxes. If you don't have any of the Rockin' series of salvia, you really need to get some, especially if you want to have and support your pollinators. These plants are just absolutely covered in bumblebees, honeybees, and all sorts of different size pollinators. So let's run through real quick and let me tell you what we have. I've already told you, Newly Noir Coleus. We have a Caladium. I don't remember the name. I will have to find it and tell it to you. This is the new, it will be come out next year, the Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow, doing quite nicely. And then the Mini Vista White, which is not new, but it is doing really well. Then we have, again, the Salvia, the Coleus. I didn't plant any of the petunias here because we've got enough going on. Then we have the new Super Bells. This is the Super Bells Prism Pink Lemonade. I want to make sure I got that right. So it has pink and yellow in there. You can see that the Super Bell is kind of being taken over by the petunia, which doesn't really surprise me because petunias are going to be a little bit more vigorous than your Calibrachoas, but doing quite nicely. Came into the corner. I'm losing a Caladium in there, it's all right. And then again, it's just repeated. So we have 3 different trailing plants between, you can see them down here a little bit better as far as the prism. It depends on how much sun they get, will depend on the intensity of their color. So this is underneath the Coleus and it's a lighter color, but then you move down here a little bit where it's in more full sun and it has that hot pink, color to it because it gets more sun. So this is a really fun one. It will be a lot of fun to have in your garden. But yeah, everybody's doing well going into August. Now we're just into kind of maintenance mode, fertilizing, keeping the Coleus pinched back. You can see, let's see if I can find a spot where I have pinched it and it can show you. Yeah, here we go. So it's really important to pinch your Coleus. So you can see I pinched it and now I have 2 really nice stems coming off of that. Now what I need to do is come back in here again and pinch it right here so it keeps it nice and thick and sturdy and not to get too floppy. As I said, it's taken over my Caladium right here. So if I want to come in and take out this whole branch, I certainly can do that. I can come in and take out these branches to give it a little bit more room, certainly in the front. So that's just some maintenance that can be done here. We'll just continue to fertilize, continue to water. This is not on irrigation as of right now. One day, I hope it will be. It just keeps getting pushed down the to-do list. But anyway, this is really fun. Let me flip around so I can give you the whole perspective. So here we are on the deck with the boxes rather. Down there is the bed with the Incrediballs, Spireas, and the Mini Vista Whites that we just did. And then we pan over to the patio And there you can see the 3 trellises with the roses climbing. So, as always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. We'll see you in the next video. As always, y'all have a great day. See you soon, friends. Bye.